Jadi hari ini kita bakal ngobrol sama Pak Zineng, salah satu emang founder dari Artagenda juga, yang kayaknya aku banyak pertanyaan-pertanyaan mau ngobrolin tentang Pak Afandi. Tapi mungkin untuk starting up, Pak boleh ceritain sedikit nggak what your experience and your background?
Oke, ini cerita panjang loh.
Waduh.
Ya. Sekitar 15-16 tahun yang lalu, I saw my first Afandi painting. This was at auction, and seeing Afandi painting, the first feeling I got from seeing an Afandi painting was one of repulsion. I was very scared karena lukisan Afandi, there's a certain type of energy from his painting, and so when I was looking at the first Afandi, I thought, this is so strong, gitu ya. And it was very difficult to, saya ingat, it was very difficult to hang his painting because he needs a wall of his own. Kalau sama lukisan lain dipasang sama lukisan lain, it will totally kill the other painting most of the time. Yeah, no matter whether the painting is gelap atau terang, but just because of the strength of Afandi's painting, I felt like, this was very, very, really, really, very strong, and it gave you a kind of feeling like you need to really set it apart from others. So I had a very strong impression of Afandi punya lukisan.
Wow. Jadi emang Afandi itu punya energi, ya, kayak rasa yang kuat sekali ya Pak.
Yes. Bill, you sendiri udah lihat cukup banyak karya Afandi. Do you not have the same feeling?
I have the same feeling. Actually, exactly the same. But there is kalau ngomongin yang di awal-awal, pertama kali ngelihat Afandi, itu ada rasa energi, ada rasa scare. Maksudnya scare in good way ya. Maksudnya dia tuh bisa kayak nguasain kita punya aura. Tapi waktu awal-awal aku ngelihat Afandi tuh kita belum terlalu masuk ke dalam artwork kayak yang benar-benar old master segala macam. Jadi ada uniqueness tersendiri juga buat aku ngelihat when people kasih tahu ini adalah old master maestronya Indonesia. Aku bertanya juga, kenapa gambarnya begini-begini? Kayak butuh waktu, kalau from my experience, butuh waktu untuk aku start appreciate Afandi. Bukan pertama-tama appreciate Afandi, tapi nggak seperti sekarang appreciate Afandi. Saat kita udah bisa, maksudnya secara lebih dekat melihat dan menikmatinya, itu apresiasi aku ke Pak Afandi tuh jauh banget. The painting too.
Pengalamanmu seperti banyak orang lain. I feel like when you first look at an Afandi painting, and if you were not familiar with Afandi, first you're struggling to identify what's going on. Like we have all of these Afandi, all 9 paintings here on display. When you look at a work that's right over there, brightly lit on the wall, first you are trying to identify what exactly is being painted. Yeah. So most of the time, I find like the most difficult part to engage with an Afandi is the recognition. Dia lukis apa pertama. Then after that, when you are more used to looking at Afandi, like as if you get more of an acquired taste, then you can feel the energy and you can get more out of it. But it's a little bit of an acquired taste, I think.
Yeah, that's why. Itu benar-benar terjadi. Aku sempat eksperimental about that kind of thing though. Aku kebetulan kita content creation yang dimana aku banyak ngevideoin karya-karya. Sekali aku coba penasaran, I take video tentang lukisan Afandi, but I didn't explain about apa yang ada di dalam lukisannya.
Okay. You didn't explain the subject.
Iya.
Okay.
Nanya ke kawan-kawan di dalam sosial media itu, lukisan tentang apa ini? And every people have different answer.
Yes. Some of Affandi's less recognizable subject can appear quite different.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, we know Affandi for his portrait diri, dia melukis pantai, beachscape, perahu. These are some of his most typical subjects. But there are some really special ones as well. I think the one that you were referring to itu penyu.
Iya, betul.
Ya, lukis penyu kan?
Iya.
Iya.
Ada saat itu ada orang yang bilang kepala orang, ada yang bilang apa. Iya.
Kalau dia lukis penyu itu sedikit kayak dia lukis bunga apa? Teratai.
Betul.
Yeah, lotus. There is a certain kind of roundness to the form. There is that kind of dark, very concentrated form to it as well. Yeah, so it's quite interesting.
Menarik gitu.
Yeah.
That's why aku pikir it's a good thing kita bisa duduk di sini ngobrolin tentang Pak Affandi. Karena mungkin dengan kita ngobrol, apalagi habis ini aku juga mau nanya. Aku tahu Mr. Zineng nih punya experience yang cukup panjang di dalam dunia art. Jadi aku rasa Mr. Zineng juga bisa ngasih kita pandangan-pandangan saat kita keluar melihat Pak Affandi dengan pandangan yang berbeda lagi.
Ya, mudah-mudahan bisa ya.
Waduh. Tapi sebelumnya mungkin yang pengen aku tanyain Mr. Zineng, boleh cerita nggak sedikit experience di dunia artnya sendiri? Gimana bisa masuk dunia artnya sih biar teman-teman juga dapat konteksnya siapa si Zineng itu?
Okay. Ya. Ini cerita panjang, as always. But this was the same time, about 16, 17 years ago, I was in Jogja.
Okay.
At that time, I was a student, lagi belajar batik. Terus, my teachers didn't come to class, so I also didn't go to class. Okay. Instead, I hung out with contemporary artists, people like Bill, I knew him then. So at that time, I had the opportunity to see some of Affandi's painting, the Museum Affandi.
Okay.
And also was able to work on a few projects of modern artists like Sujoyono, sama Mokhtar Bin. And out of that experience, it was formative for me. And then I went to work in an auction house, the Christie's, and that was it was in Christie's that I managed to see a lot of works of Affandi and handle them for sale. And handling them for sale itu beda sama kalau kita kunjungi ke museum lihat lukisan Affandi. Beda experience-nya. You get to take down the painting, you get to check the painting close. Sometimes you can touch the painting juga. Lihat belakang juga. So itu pengalaman yang sangat invaluable for me to enter the world of paintings and enter the world of Affandi this way.
Kayaknya have same experience in that kind of round, like saat ngelihat, kebetulan dulu aku juga sempat di auction house juga, dan ngelihat hal-hal seperti itu tuh emang saat ngelihat secara langsung. Dan kayak yang dibilang handling, we have what do you feeling about it?
I feel it's very real because we must remember all of these inanimate objects that we hang on the wall. They're things born of the earth. For someone like Affandi, when he paints, he was usually painting on the ground, outdoors, and he was very. His paintings are very much a product of a physical product that was created between the interaction of the mind and what is out there in reality. So all of these things are actually really physical. We must have that touch We must have that experience of being able to see it in the larger world such that it becomes relevant. Kalau ini hanya lukisan, pasang di museum, it's very expensive mungkin, then you lose that personal connection with the art world, and that's not cool.
Wow, it's kita kebetulan hari ini lagi di exhibitionnya. Bisa cerita sedikit tentang hal itu, karena biasa yang kayak Mr. Bilang, we just see like one or two painting of Affandi. Tapi kali ini kita exhibition, bisa ceritain sedikit tentang exhibitionnya dan gimana bisa ada segini banyak karya dari Pak Affandi.
We had the chance to put together this exhibition. This on screen, what you see is a scene from the opening pembukaan awal bulan ini, where we had the Brazilian ambassador join us to open this exhibition. It's I must say, it's quite a rare occasion for us to be able to show so many works of Affandi in one setting. As a dealer, I must tell you, all of the works here available untuk dibeli. If anyone wants to take home any painting, you just have to talk to my colleagues at the back. Yeah. Now, in such a situation, it's not usual for us to be able to gather so many pieces. We have got 9 works of Affandi here, gathered here from various private collectors. We've worked with friends and other dealers in the art scene to be able to bring together these works. So the origin of this exhibition, beberapa bulan yang lalu, I had the chance to be in discussion to get a few Affandi paintings for sale. Then I thought, this is a really good opportunity for us to continue to showcase Affandi within Art Agenda's Modernist series. So we have a series of exhibitions that we began. Kira-kira 2 tahun yang lalu kita mulai series ini. Affandi adalah pelukis ke-6 that we are showing in this venue here. Prior to this, we had already worked with the paintings of Pirus, Ade Pirus, who unfortunately left us earlier this year. The works of Popo Iskandar, Rusli, as well as Handrio. So over the past 2 years, we have already been making exhibitions at Art Agenda, showcasing their artworks. And it's a very planned but yet spontaneous program. Kalau kita bisa kumpulin beberapa karya yang bagus, kita ada pameran. It's as simple as that. It's like going out and looking for things. Kalau ketemu, dan cocok, then we'll make an exhibition. So this is how the Hayat exhibition came about. And once we have a selection of works, then we can begin to conceptualize how the exhibition will look like. So this was how it started.
Wow, that's quite interesting. Banyak banget. Yang pertama, ini master-master semua yang di-showcase dari awal. Tapi bisa cerita sedikit nggak tentang judul dari exhibition ini sendiri dan temanya itu tentang apa dan what do you want to achieve from this exhibition?
Yes, you will notice that for all the exhibitions that we've done prior, we've always tried to encapsulate, summarize the spirit of the works within one word, satu kata aja, yang bisa encapsulate the whole feeling and a kind of summary view of the artist's work. Therefore, Dawai, for instance, relating to the works of Handrio, speaks about that kind of rhythm and the kind of tempo that you find in his works. Kalau untuk karya Affandi, we feel Affandi wouldn't be who he is, his paintings wouldn't be powerful if they were not connected to life. Everything that he did was connected to, in that sense, humanity in general, but everything that he painted was real and existing. It was only after he painted the object that it then gained that kind of jiwa. But he had to be observing it first. It has to exist in real life before it actually materializes. So the origin of his works is in life. That's why hayat as a term. Yeah.
Jadi emang karena ada jiwa atau kehidupan di dalam karya-karya Pak Affandi. Tapi tadi ada sesuatu yang menarik juga, humanity di dalamnya. Banyak hal-hal tentang Pak Affandi yang menurutku juga, that's what my experience. Kayak saat Pak Affandi bisa men-showcase mungkin objek yang simple, yang normal, yang mungkin menurut beberapa orang nggak penting, tapi Pak Affandi bisa membuatnya hidup juga dan ada pesan-pesan yang bisa dibawakan di dalamnya. Dari segitu lamanya Mr. Zilal Zineng melihat karya-karya Pak Affandi, ada nggak karya-karya yang benar-benar nyentuh hati?
Yes, of course, many. And I wish to collect them myself slowly, pelan-pelan. One of the works that I feel really particularly, it strikes me, would be this particular piece that we are kind of being associated with, Pohon Beringin. We have the painting at the back of the exhibition. So for all of us who have the opportunity to be here today at Art Agenda, you can have a look at the painting closely later on. At the start, Bill, what do you see? You see, kamu bisa lihat ada pohon kan? That's immediately the first thing that one sees. And if you only see that, I must say, it's a little sad. Because if you look at the painting closely, actually there's a ton of details in there that's like super interesting to look at. And you can look at it today, the next day, look at it a few months down the road, a few years down the road. There's still a lot of details in there that comes out at you, jumps out at you all the time. So together with my colleagues here, who have done an interesting job at putting together this exhibition, we decided to try to recreate some details from the painting in the form of, us, the two of us as actors, talking with you, under this banyan tree mural that we have here. Because if you look at that painting, exactly the same type of activities are happening. People are talking, dogs are fighting, people can have food, yes, please have a drink. So we wanted to draw attention to these kind of small but vital details in the works of Affandi, because there are many of them. And not just, you might think, a figurative work tells you more things. Yang ada figure, lukisan yang ada figure. And maybe landscape is different, it tells you less things. But no, actually, Affandi is able to kind of really get all of these details into a picture and makes it so sort of full and so worth and enduring to look at.
Jadi salah satu karya spesial dari buat you adalah ini ya. Tapi kalau melihat di sini juga ada, waktu dibikin ulang ada banyak tulisan-tulisan. What is this? Like you put like some daun-daun di sini yang.
Yes, we put some daun-daun di sini. Actually, not me, but the average visitor to the show. Everyone, you can come here, and we encourage you to do so later on. Contribute your thoughts about Affandi to our growing tree. My colleagues have had this great idea to make the tree come alive. You can continue to grow it by adding your thoughts about Affandi, because surely after having come here, seeing these few works of Affandi, it must be pretty, I hope it touches you enough that you want to leave some thoughts of us. And that's the idea here for for this growing mural.
Oke.
Itu apa? Post-it-nya di belakang screen-nya. Nanti siapa mau
Bisa.
contribute, silakan.
Bisa di ini ya.
Yeah.
Tapi salah satu yang menarik juga saat ngomongin Afandi dengan tadi kita ngomongin objek-objek yang sehari-hari. Tapi dari experience yang selama ini, what do you see Afandi in the global eye? Maksudnya gimana Afandi di global, bukan cuma di Indonesia? Bisa cerita sedikit tentang hal itu, Mas Dinar?
Yes. Let's take a look. Actually, one of the motivations for us to put together this exhibition pada saat ini juga karena ada karya Afandi lagi dipamerkan di Venice. Yeah. Venice is in Italy and the site of the world's most important art show, Venice Biennale. And this year, tahun 2024, this is the 60th edition of Venice Biennale, and the first in 70 years that Afandi's work reappears at the Biennale. So the picture that you see on screen, the right side photo, that shows you a portrait daily of Afandi from 1975 that he painted. He gifted it to Singapore. He gifted it to Singapore in 1975 karena dari pemerintah Singapore, dari Universitas Singapore, dia terima honorary doctorate 1 tahun sebelumnya. So Dr. Afandi became Dr. Afandi in 1974, and in 75 he painted this portrait and gave it to the state of Singapore. And so this painting is in the collection of Galerie Nationale Singapore, National Gallery Singapore, and they lent it to this exhibition in Venice. This year's Venice Biennale is very, very cool karena selain Afandi dari Indonesia kita ada Hendra Gunawan, Dula, Fajar Siddiq, Emilia Sunasa. Karya mereka semua ikut Venice Biennale kali ini. And they're all joined by other really worthy but sometimes underappreciated artists from the Global South. So we have a huge Global South exhibition right in Venice at this present moment in time. And since their works are being celebrated so far away, and the rest of the world has the opportunity to see great works by our artists here in Indonesia and Southeast Asia, we thought we should do our part juga. Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why we have our exhibition here. Because let's just say, if we didn't have this show, it's so hard to see an Afandi painting somewhere. Kita harus pergi ke Kaunas, maybe there's 1 or 2 paintings on exhibition. Yeah. Paling itu kan. Yeah, so it's a little challenging. So we thought everyone should do their part for the ecology, and if we have the chance to be able to bisa kumpulin beberapa lukisan, yeah, let's take the opportunity to do so.
Wow, menarik banget. Ini barusan juga kawan-kawan bilang ternyata banyak yang antusias di online juga. Mungkin Mr. Zin yang bisa ngomongnya lebih keras lagi biar teman-teman juga kedengaran.
Okay. Lebih keras lagi.
Yeah.
Just like the energy of Afandi in his paintings. So you asked me just now about the global position of Afandi, kan?
Yeah.
I would say, actually, it is very interesting because since the very earliest times, even before Indonesia became an independent nation, or rather when it was very much a newly formed nation, misalnya dari tahun 50-an, Afandi udah jadi a kind of cultural ambassador of Indonesia. He was definitely, by a long stretch, the most representative Indonesian artist back then already in the 1950s. Dia tahun 52 dia udah pergi ke Brazil. He had already taken part in the Sao Paulo Biennale. Tahun 54 dia udah masuk Venice Biennale. Tahun 66, in the 1960s, he made a solo exhibition in Brazil. Yeah, and sebelumnya he already represented Indonesia in India as a kind of student in Shantiniketan, India. In 1949, he received a kind of scholarship to go over there and study, and he traveled around India. And really developed a certain attitude for painting outdoor in the early 1950s. So, of all the artists back in Indonesia in those early years, he was definitely somebody who had a very distinct style and who people knew already was representative of Indonesia and some new directions in Indonesian art. Ya, itu posisi global buat Affandi.
Jadi emang representatif dari tahun 50-an. Kalau kita ngelihat hal itu, ini kalau kita tarik ke belakang, konteks saat tahun 50 itu Indonesia benar-benar lagi struggling. And pameran di luar, it's a something, bukan kayak hari ini yang kita bisa easy buat keluar segala macam. Bahkan tadi dibilang di India juga, gimana Pak Affandi pas di awal-awal beliau berangkat ke India, malah sampai sana karena karakteristik, karena gayanya beliau sampai di showcase sebagai seorang guru juga. Benar Mr. Sineng?
Ya, benar. Let's take a look at the screen here. In about 2 years ago, at Art Jakarta, where Bill and I first met, we had the opportunity to show a few works of Affandi to highlight the relationship that he had with India, particularly when he went to Shantiniketan at that point in time. So we showed a few works that talk about arrivals, departures, and encounters, and managed to show these works alongside the works of Indian modernist artists who were also in Shantiniketan and formed part of the Bengal School of Painting. Yeah, so really from the very earliest days, Affandi had this kind of importance.
Well, I remember maksudnya, tapi what do you see when you showcase that time, the difference between Affandi and the India painters, artis India sama Indonesia, especially Pak Affandi, apa yang beda dari Pak Affandi?
I think we cannot talk about the differences between sort of like countries and culture, but we can talk about the differences for individuals. Definitely Affandi's style was very outstanding. The way that he had already began to paint from the tube, langsung dari tube, ya. That was a style that really was an advantage for him, but also something that was also a point of criticism, because it was original and it was not original at the same time. It was a kind of expressionism, but it was also something that made Affandi look too close to certain Western artists who were painting in a similar style. Yeah. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Do you talking about Van Gogh or?
Yeah, we're talking about Van Gogh, and we also talk. There was also another artist called Oscar Skrsja, who also worked in a similar style.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, Affandi was always very closely associated with these two artists, but he had his own style, and he knew they exist, but he didn't follow them. He didn't follow in their footsteps. He definitely had his own direction.
Jadi kalau ngomongin Van Gogh sama Affandi, probably pernah ada criticism tentang hal itu pun, tapi memang Pak Afandi dengan pelototannya have a really uniqueness of it ya. Tapi mungkin ini yang aku bisa tambahin sedikit ya. Orang mungkin melihat Pak Afandi dengan pelototannya ngasal-ngasal aja, kelihatannya kayak ngapain painting like that. Tapi salah satu kekuatan Pak Afandi juga gimana beliau mengerti sekali tentang anatomi, bagaimana sebelum melukis karya-karya yang seperti kita bisa lihat sekarang itu, yang dengan pelototan-pelototan, Pak Afandi sudah sangat kuat di basicnya. Jadi saat dia melakukan karya yang dengan ekspresif, dia tetap bisa menimbulkan suatu karakteristik yang berbeda. Do you see the same thing? Kayak, what do you think about it? Is it he's good in technical, or what do you think about that kind of thing?
Yes, definitely. Sometimes we always think of an artist having to graduate from art school, having had years of sort of, training, formal training before they can be called an artist. Afandi, as with many of his compatriots during the time when they were just coming out and becoming artists, they did not undergo formal training as artists. Afandi trained in the Sangha, and he received some feedback and some instructions from teman-teman. Yeah, and that was how he kind of began to get into drawing and painting. And he was, in essence, self-taught, like pretty much like yourself.
Yeah.
You are self-taught juga as an artist.
Yeah.
And as a self-taught artist, we must always remember there really isn't any difference in the level of technical ability. Many of the self-taught artists have supreme technical abilities. Draftsmanship is top class. The level of handling, the ability to handle difficult anatomical bits is very, very high. I wanted to show us a picture of the portrait theory of Afandi. Maybe my colleagues can help us to turn to the screen to show the portrait theory of Afandi. Yeah. And from some of the pictures that you will be able to see of Afandi, his portrait theory particularly, you would see that technically he's so able.
This is gonna be interesting, yeah. See, like the portrait diri dari Afandi. Wow.
There you go.
Yeah.
Here is a picture. Here is a portrait theory, rather earlier work from the 1950s, late 1950s, that Aditya had gained the opportunity to handle a few years ago. We've placed the work with a private museum here in Indonesia. And this is a beautiful portrait theory. I know the screen is a little bit cut off, but again, the best art will survive all kinds of weird editing and difficult circumstances. So I want you to look at the picture on your left. There you have an image of Afandi's face, rather quite big. You can see my colleague appearing beside the painting. So the scale of the painting is there for you to see. Bill, what do you think? Sorry, I'm challenging you. What do you think is Afandi feeling right here? Can you feel him? I think mad. Yeah.
Mad.
Apa lagi?
Sad, but is it angry too, or what do you?
I feel him in his background. You see, the background is very agak putih.
Yeah, putih.
Yeah. When he painted this portrait, he was in the US, he was in Ohio. He was actually a visiting professor in Ohio State University. And on top of his head, he was wearing a skull cap. Karena agak dingin di situ di Ohio, agak dingin. So he was wearing a skull cap, and you can feel a certain kind of cold. I don't know, when you're cold, can you scrunch up your face like when you're cold? Yeah, so that's exactly how he was feeling. And we talked about anatomy, technical ability. If you are not technically able, you can't do a picture like that, I don't think. Yeah.
Especially when you do it only with couple of stroke,
And also you're observing yourself in the mirror. So that's how he painted his self-portrait. He would put up a mirror and he would paint himself from the mirror.
So it's sama kayak saat kita ngelihat di banyak self portrait di Museum Affandi, we can feel different every
mood
painting.
Yeah, different mood kan. Moodnya beda. Yeah. If you encounter the self-portrait at Museum Affandi, where you were the past few days, you will see that in the later works of Affandi, the illness, sadness, maybe a kind of readiness to pass on to the next world, itu semua kelihatan dalam portrait ini dia.
Dan jujur, Affandi salah satu seniman yang when they painting everything jujur, honestly, they have a honesty on it.
Yes, I think that honesty, that kejujuran sama the reality of things is very close together, indeed. He painted things as they were, but in his style. So there is that kind of honesty that appears. Yeah.
Sesuatu yang menarik juga dari Pak Affandi adalah bagaimana dia suka outdoor, painting outdoor, ataupun traveling to paint. Can you explain a little bit about that kind of?
Yes, he painted outdoor in French, plein air, a plein air painter. He painted in the outdoor. And there was another term that people use, which I like to use better. It's called field painter, di lapangan, field.
Okay, field paint.
Let's play the video. Here, let me just briefly introduce as the video is being played. We have on YouTube, and you can enjoy it at home because it's on YouTube, a 1982 documentary of Affandi called Hungry to Paint. And the film crew came from Belanda. Mereka ikut dia ke Pantai Parangtritis, and he was painting in a hut at Pantai Parangtritis. So here is a rather large size painting, and we can see him di lapangan, lagi melukis. Of course, he was in the shade. There is his assistant behind him, who would pass him colors, paint tube. And then he would be working with his hands and langsung from the tube. It was very true that Affandi did not usually use the brush. You would be able to see, again from the video, that he was very adroit with his hands, as you would expect of a painter. But he literally, there you see, he literally put his hands into paint and work them onto the surface. And what he was holding is the paint tube, not exactly a paintbrush. So there was a great connection between the scene, what he observed, his hands, and the painting surface. That kejujuran that we were talking about, that comes from observing the scene, not painting in a realist style, but painting his feeling about the scene, directly transmitting it onto the canvas, not mediated through a brush, dia nggak pakai kuas, which maybe is like a mediating device. So it was more immediate for him to paint it that way.
Jadi benar-benar kayak one on one with the painting, like benar-benar really close to the painting.
Yes, and I must be Juju juga. I wasn't there when he painted this. Yeah, of course. In fact, I was born the same year this documentary was made in 1982. But people who have seen him paint and seen Afandi work often talked about him having that kind of entering a moment, kayak lagi trance atau apa ya.
Transcendence, like, iya kayak lagi di dunia lain kayak.
Yeah.
Iya, kesurupan.
Surupan. So entering that kind of state, then he was able to paint. So when he painted, it was almost like as if he was expanding his energy. And after he finished painting, he would exactly sit back like that, and he'll be tired. Whew. Yeah, like how the both of us are after our 1 hour session here. We'll be tired, and then we'll need a drink. We'll need a drink, and then we try and recover. So he had expended much energy when he was painting. Yeah. So this is the kind of things that he did.
Dan mungkin ditambah sedikit juga, sangat menarik gimana Pak Afandi bisa bikin satu karya yang sangat indah dan elegan dalam waktu yang sangat pendek, dengan energi yang benar-benar transcendent. Biasanya normally seniman butuh waktu lama buat bikin satu painting, tapi Pak Afandi less than a day dia bisa bikin satu karya yang luar biasa.
For most of his paintings, we understand from the historical records, the people's accounts, that he took maybe like a half hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour plus to finish each painting of his. Yeah.
It show menunjukkan juga craftsmanship, the painters, senimannya sendiri, gimana kalau bukan seniman yang benar-benar especially autodidact, without belajar dari jalanan, dia bisa execute suatu karya dengan luar biasa banget.
He wasn't a very intellectualized artist. Here, Afandi is talking in English, comparing himself based on questions that he received from the interviewer, comparing himself to other great masters of world art. He didn't want to intellectualize the way he painted. He just talked about feeling, connection, and trying to make that connection come alive in his works. Connection with the scene, connection with the acaranya. Yeah. So he painted quite a lot of sort of festivals and human activity, in essence.
And we're talking a lot about Afandi, about how he painting, gimana Afandi secara kejiwaannya juga. Tapi you have experience in the art market. What do you see Afandi in the art market?
Yeah, the art market is a totally different arena altogether. The art market is where we get to see a lot of artworks of Afandi. Most of the works of Afandi that I have encountered, that I think Bill yourself you have encountered, these were all artworks that have passed through auction and maybe a few at exhibition. Because there are so little public places for us to go in Indonesia and beyond that we can literally go and have free access to Afandi painting. But if the artwork of Afandi was at an auction, for instance, it's free. And as long as you make your way there to the preview, you would then be able to see it. Yeah. So, in the market, Afandi has a rather quite special place. Some of his works have been auctioned off since the very earliest days when there were auctions of Indonesian art. But what's very interesting is that compared to his peers, compared to artists of his generation, Afandi is perhaps the most undervalued artist in his whole generation. I don't know if you have observed that.
Yeah. What do you think make the kind apa yang bikin Affandi itu secara art market terlihat undervalue? Apakah ada data-data? Maybe you can explain more so audience can see the comparison between one artist to another.
Yes, I'm an art dealer, so pasti ada data. Let's see the data. Let's see the hard data. Yeah? These days people talk about data. It's very difficult. Yeah. As a dealer, we sometimes go by feeling, but everybody wants data. Okay, so we'll present data. What you see here are images. I know the images are rather tiny, but you can go online and see them. These are top price Sugiurno artworks at auction. Sugiurno is a contemporary of Affandi. Back in the days when people painted during revolutionary times, Sugiurno espoused a certain kind of realism in his paintings, and the realism that he espoused was very different from the kind of works that Affandi was doing. Affandi dia punya jalur sendiri, dia agak evolve banget dia, depending on the political situation, for instance. But Sugiurno, because of the way that he was able to embody the spirit of the nation and the historical events at that time, he is known as the father of modern Indonesian painting. And the father of modern Indonesian painting, some of his works that have been sold at auction the past 20 years have achieved really big prices. Like in about 10 years ago, at Sotheby's, that's the record on the left, a revolutionary painting of Sugiurno sold for something to the effect of $8 million. You see there, it says hammer price 6,5 juta. Tapi 6,5 juta itu belum termasuk buyer's premium. Kira-kira 20% more, and that brings us up to 8 juta US dollar.
Which is around berapa miliar itu? There's a lot of number there.
A lot of number to count, yeah? Let's just go back. Yes. So that's Sugiurno for us, a contemporary of Affandi. Let's move on and look at other contemporaries of Affandi.
And this Sugiurno adalah salah satu seniman yang di satu zaman ini. Artinya Affandi ada di zaman yang sama dengan Pak SS juga.
Mereka they knew each other, and they all work in the same context. And maybe let's not look at LeMayer first, but the next artist, Lee Man Fong. Lee Man Fong as well was an important artist in modern Indonesian art. The first curator appointed by President Sukarno to take care of the presidential art collection, and a very important artist in his own rights. And all of his most top price painting of Indonesian subject, Bali life, gak ada di bawah 3 juta US dollar. Gak ada. And then let's take a look at the works of Hendra, who also has a certain kind of distinct quality about them. And again, you would see top price works of Hendra that have sold at auction, they have all exceeded $1 million very comfortably. Very comfortably, and there are more than one or two pieces that way. Another artist who was part of the veteran of Affandi, Sujana Keton, also has a few works which have sold for rather top prices, and have also handled some of them at auction. And again, these are scenes of Indonesian life, village life, street vendors, kaki lima. These are all very typical subjects that Affandi painted.
Similar, like which is a lot of them. It's similar what Pak Affandi paint too.
Exactly. Let's take a look at the top auction prices of Affandi that have been achieved, and this is what we see. Literally two paintings Kalau sama buyer's premium, kalau udah tambah buyer's premium, two paintings exceed $1 million. Two other paintings, which I handled at Christie's in 2015 and 2016, came close to exceeding $1 million. So if we take 1 juta USD ya, kayak as a kind of gauge, itu 16, sekarang 16 M ya.
Yeah, 16 M.
Yeah. If we take that as a kind of
Another level,
threshold, we find it's very difficult for the artworks of Effendi to break that 1 million and to go comfortably beyond that, unlike the works of his compatriots, of his veteran.
Like there is harus ada satu boundary yang belum bisa dipecahkan di situ ya.
Ya, agak susah dipecahkan itu.
Dan you experience, maksudnya sempat menghandle artinya salah satu dari karya-karya ini juga dulunya.
I did handle quite a number of the works of Effendi and Sugiono and Manfo and also Lemay.
Can you explain more detail when gimana sih fight-nya atau saat dia mau mecahkan 1 juta atau ada experience something there, like is it really hard or gimana yang pernah dialamin sendiri?
Perhaps we go back to the start of our conversation when we talk about the feeling we got when we encounter an Effendi painting. I think it has everything to do with that first encounter with an Effendi painting, the kind of perhaps a little bit of a difficulty, a little bit of a challenge to the way that you would understand what he was painting, and maybe the extra amount of time and effort that you need to really get into his works. Perhaps, I don't know, because I think you like his paintings and I like his paintings, but we cannot really quite explain, in a rational, scientific way why Effendi's works are priced less than his compatriots. Yeah.
It's like kind of some mystery on it. It's by itself, eh?
I think, I would think it's a mystery. I don't have a ready answer for it.
Maybe we can have a Q&A with some audience if they want to ask something too.
Yes.
I think that's gonna be interesting. Kira-kira mungkin ada teman-teman yang mau nanya sesuatu, Ken. Sambil kita menunggu, karya apa yang paling dari Pak Effendi yang saat melihat ada uniqueness tersendiri menurut you?
Sometimes it is the subject that he paints, and sometimes it is how a painting is very representative of an era, of a scene. Like if we take a look at the painting on the right, on your right, here is a 1981 painting of boats, Perahu Kusamba, di pantai. It's a very lively scene. You see, first of all, lots of boats over there, and at the very in the background, you see a kind of hill, a mountain of sorts, right? That's near the beach. It's actually, in geographical terms, we call it a beach head. It's like a cliff, and then it drops into the sea, rather quite close. And there, what I like about this painting, the sort of unique aspect that you asked about, is the element of time. Because from the painting, I think I can feel what time of the day it is. It's not particularly obvious, important in Affandi's works to talk about time, because many of the things he paints, you don't need to go think about time. But here, the element of time is really, really quite clear. The sun is very big, don't you see? The sun is really big right up there. And I would encourage all of you later on to stand close in front of the painting and look at how thick the pelototan is.
Pelototan mataharinya.
Yeah, pelototan mataharinya. And all the boats are back on shore. You don't see any boats out in the sea because, well, he didn't paint the sea, he painted the beach. And all the boats are back on shore, and they're parked. And can I also draw your attention to the lower left corner of the painting? You see below the board, there is a pair of footprint. Yeah. Footprint itu apa sih?
Jejak kaki. Ada jejak kakinya.
Ada jejak kakinya. The bottom left. And there's no person is in the painting, but there's footprints. The person has left the scene, or the fisherman. Maybe the fisherman has left the scene. Maybe it's too hot. He's parked his boat. Is in the middle of the day. Dia lagi mau beristirahat. Yeah. Jadi he's gone off, and there you only have a trace of what has happened sebelumnya. And that sense of time, sometimes that you get from Affandi's painting, is what is unique here. I don't just see a scene, I see a certain moment, I see a certain realness in his works.
Memang kadang melihat karya Pak Affandi yang aku pernah lihat gitu, artinya kadang banyak teka-teki di dalamnya.
Ada. Yeah. Some of his other scenes, like sabung ayam, mungkin kalau dia melukis sabung ayam, kadang-kadang you see besides the ayam, you also see the feet of people.
Kakinya orang.
Yeah, and it's very real again. Affandi would have been painting close to the ground. Maybe his canvas is just right out in front of us, like if we were the painter. And then when he looks up, there are people who are standing, right? Standing and looking at the cockfight. And so he doesn't see their face, he sees their feet. So he paints their feet at the corner. Yeah, and that's it.
And
very real.
Dan berasa seperti kayak dia lagi menjadi ayamnya, bukan menjadi orang yang nonton ayam. Karena dia melihatnya kakinya doang kan?
Yes, he adopts the perspective of
the chicken
fighting cock. Yeah. That's interesting, no?
Dari beberapa karya yang ada di sini, apa yang you see some uniqueness on the artwork?
I see that his paintings of trees, this time around in this exhibition, we have two very stunning examples of how he painted trees. Trees represent many things to many people. Ini lukisan dari tahun 1971 is a painting of pohon zaitun. And Affandi would have encountered the pohon zaitun, the olive tree, on his travels in Italy. And for him, it was about, there is a kind of wanting to recreate a fleeting moment that he saw, where perhaps a wind is passing through. There is a kind of great energy in that he felt when he was encountering the scene on his travel, and he was trying to paint it as swiftly as possible. He had to do it really quick. If you see the pohon zaitun painting alongside the lotus painting, you will see that it is done in a much more fluid way. The strokes are much more drippy. And he was really trying to convey just that sense of energy, fleeting time again, through in the painting. So the background is not particularly enunciated. He doesn't paint so much of a background. He needed to get the form of the tree, the sinuous quality of the tree into his composition. And having achieved that, that was enough for him, that kind of energy there. Yeah. Then of course, you can compare the Pohon Zaitun to the Pohon Beringin at the back, where the feeling again is very different. Here, time almost stands still. If you go to the Pohon Beringin in the morning, in the middle of the day, and agak sore, if you visit the Pohon Beringin, the sense of time is the same. There is a kind of majesty of the tree, spread out wide like this, and di bawah Pohon Beringin, again, we talked about that. Many things are happening, and they happen at all times of the day. And so, with that picture, it seems like almost time becomes immemorial. It stretches for a very long time. Yeah.
Same like when we sit here lah. Artinya ada saat kita merasakan kenikmatan atau kita ngobrolin sesuatu yang menarik, terkadang waktu itu udah kayak berjalan begitu saja.
Yeah, I think so. We better watch the time as well.
But probably one kita lihat, wow. Probably aku ngelihat ada tempat yang ditutup di belakang. Apakah itu ada explanation yang tersendiri buat pameran ini atau bagaimana, Mister?
Well, it's a form of mystery.
Yeah.
We talked about the mystery of Afandi's market, but no, we were not trying to create mystery. It's just that Afandi painted life, and life is about things that there's public life and there's private life. Okay? So sometimes he would paint subjects that were that is very much part of our total experience as humans. So in more private scenes that he painted, we decided to put these private scenes inside, beyond the curtain, just so that we are taking care of people's sensitivities these days. We don't want to prescribe that if you are below a certain age, you cannot go and see the painting, but we just want you to be clear that because Afandi was so real and painted so many different types of things, he painted whatever he could paint, some subjects might offend you, and we don't want it to offend you in a surprising way. So we give you an advisory first before you enter that part of the show. Nggak usah bayar, tetap bisa masuk.
Tapi nggak usah kita jelaskan di sini kayaknya kalau itu.
Nggak usah. Tapi kalau Bill, you want to explain, you can.
Mungkin kalau teman-teman kebetulan ada yang mau nanya, kita tutup sebelumnya dengan pertanyaan-pertanyaan. Duduk udah. Kenalin nama, terus mau nanya apa?
Baik, perkenalkan nama saya Muhammad Sayyid Wijaya dari Jombang, dari komunitas Nyarek Jombang. Ya. Jadi tadi cukup kaget dengan perbedaan, terutama di harga yang tercantum di sini tadi. Padahal kan mereka bisa dibilang dari zaman yang sama, di era yang sama, dan keunikan karyanya juga sama-sama punya filosofi yang unik. Nah, tapi kenapa kok harga dan harganya itu terpaut bisa sangat jauh sekali gitu? Faktor-faktornya itu apa aja? Mungkin itu aja. Terima kasih.
Thank you.
Ya, itu mysteriousnya ya, isn't it? Because as we talked about earlier, dari periode awal tahun 50-an, Afandi udah sangat terkenal di seluruh dunia. His style of painting was already very developed. Dia udah lukisan dia udah dipamerkan seluruh dunia, di Amerika, di Brazil, of course here in Indonesia, and people knew him, and he was like a traveling cultural ambassador for Indonesia. And sometimes we think about what makes the art market strong, and we think about quantity, jumlah karyanya. The truth is that if you want to have for the artists whose markets are the most cherished, the most high value, there is a certain amount of quantity. Kalau karyanya terlalu sedikit, nggak ada pasar. Kita nggak bisa bangun pasar juga. Terlalu banyak karya, it also perhaps affects the market. I would say that in his lifetime, because Affandi was, for the most part of his life as an artist, he was considered a top artist. So he was dia sangat sadar that I cannot overproduce. Although I paint from life and I see life around me, but I'm not going to overproduce. He was very smart and shrewd an artist as well in his interaction with his collectors. We see so many of such accounts dalam arsip collector-collectornya, his exchanges. So he knew that he had to keep his quantity of works healthy, and he did that. So really, it still remains a mystery, I would say, why Affandi's prices are not perhaps comparable to his peers. We are at a very interesting moment in market history because we're all seated here and we have that ability to make a market. People like Bill has a lot of influence. So, what you say, who you think is great, alongside what we are able to exhibit, all of this makes the market. So maybe things might develop in a more positive way from this point on.
I think kalau ngelihat dari pengalaman, mungkin you have more experience than me. Sometimes the value of the price gonna be adjustment with the quality and the thing they have. Kayak seandainya saat undervalue nggak bisa terlalu lama, pasti ada suatu waktu saat kualitinya sangat baik dan orang realize dengan hal itu, supposed to be adjustment on the thing. What do you think?
Yes, I think so. I think if we know the history of the artist, if we are able to, kalau kita bisa jelasin perjalanan senimannya, then that gives us better appreciation, and with better appreciation, you would value it more. I would see it that way. So definitely being able to see and appreciate Affandi not just as a painter, but also the way that he saw life. That helps. That helps to eventually make for adjustments in the market.
Mungkin ada teman-teman dari online atau dari sini yang mau nanya. Mas. Silakan.
Pertama-tama terima kasih sudah diberi kesempatannya untuk mengenal Affandi lebih dekat dan berada dalam 1, 2, 3, 4, 9 berapa karya Affandi yang betul-betul saya bisa lihat secara langsung. Nama saya Indra, saya berasal dari Makassar, jauh-jauh merantau ke sini untuk mencari masa depan yang cerah di seni. Saya tidak banyak bersentuhan langsung dengan dunia seni rupa khususnya karena saya lebih banyak di wilayah seni pertunjukan sebenarnya. Tapi persentuhan saya dengan dunia seni rupa itu pertama kali di Bali. Saya berkenalan dengan Ibu Stinyo Malempat. Jadi salah satu maestro lukis Bali yang udah jauh meninggal. Lempat memberikan saya impresi yang luar biasa pada saat itu karena saya awam sama sekali dengan dunia seni rupa. Tapi melihat lukisannya, melihat karyanya, saya bisa merasakan satu putaran yang berbeda. Tadi di awal diskusi sudah dibicarakan antara Pak Wangden dan Wang Zineng dengan Bang Bill Mohdor mengenai ada ada unique feelings when we see the Afandi's painting. Hal itu juga terjadi kepada saya. Nah, apa yang membuat saya datang hari ini adalah karena sekitar ketika umur saya ada di 11-12 tahun, saya pernah melihat potongan koran yang ada lukisan Afandi di situ. Lukisannya yang kalau tidak salah telapak tangan yang menghadap ke atas. Saya lupa judulnya apa, tapi itu betul-betul tinggal di dalam kepala saya, dan itu yang membuat saya penasaran, kok dia bisa ya selama ini dan masih ada di dalam kepala saya. Kebetulan kemarin saya buka Instagram, ada Afandi House. Akhirnya saya datang ke sini dan betul-betul melihat karyanya secara langsung. Meskipun saya tidak ketemu ya lukisan yang akhirnya membawa saya untuk mengenali Afandi pertama kali, tapi dari situ saya tidak begitu tahu sih Afandi apa, dan setelah mungkin agak dewasa baru saya membaca sedikit, oh ya ada Afandi adalah maestro lukis Indonesia, bla 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 sampai akhirnya ke sini. Nah, itu mungkin intro ya sebelum masuk ke pertanyaan. Jadi pertanyaan saya sebenarnya sederhana. Satu mungkin adalah seberapa jauh sih dunia kuratorial di Indonesia ini bisa membawa seniman Indonesia ke wilayah yang lebih menguntungkan baik secara eksistensi maupun finansial dalam segi pasarnya, atau mungkin semangat atau motivasi untuk seniman-seniman muda yang baru mau merintis karir. Kemudian kenapa sih lukisan-lukisan di Indonesia kenapa sih anak-anak muda saat ini itu tidak begitu banyak yang berkecimpung di dunia, saya nggak tahu ya, sepengetahuan saya mungkin tidak begitu banyak yang benar-benar masuk ke dalam dunia seni rupa dan menemukan satu kekhasan seperti seniman-seniman Indonesia di masa lampau gitu, yang betul-betul bisa menjadi ikon atau menjadi role model untuk membawa si seniman-seniman yang baru mau masuk untuk lebih bisa memahami atau mengerti nih posisi Indonesia di skala dunia seni rupa itu seperti apa sebenarnya saat ini. Terima kasih, itu mungkin saya.
Ya. Terima kasih. Mas Indra. Pertama mungkin Mas Indra, you referring to this painting? Ini apa? Kebijaksana.
Iya,
Kebijaksana Timur.
Yeah,
that's the title of the work. This is a very special Afandi painting because he painted this sebagai mural. Dia agak buat lukisan ini sebagai lukisan, but as a mural assisted by his daughter and his back then son-in-law.
Yeah.
And he painted this in Hawaii, in the US, at a Center for East-West Center for East-West Studies.
Yeah.
I think this painting actually has a lot of relevance to the question that you have about success, about essentially generations of the present. Why perhaps a present generation of art workers or students cannot have that kind of ease to enter the art world, and not just untuk seni rupa visual, tapi untuk bidang yang lain juga. Maybe Bill, do you have any thoughts on that first?
Untuk yang pertanyaan kedua ya. Pertanyaan kedua, probably Mr. Zineng pasti lebih paham jauh. Cuman mungkin kalau aku tambahin sedikit, sebenarnya kalau ngelihat generasi muda terhadap kesenian Indonesia, ciri khas mungkin secara yang masih hidup aja ya, bukan generasi muda doang, karena secara seniman Indonesia punya ciri khas, sebenarnya punya banget. Kalau kita ngelihat seniman yang udah well established, kalau mungkin ngelihatnya seniman yang masih muda-muda banget belum ngeletek, dia lagi dalam proses pendapatan stylenya dia. Tapi kalau ngelihatnya yang udah well established, top tier seniman kita bisa dibilang seniman Indonesia punya gigitan yang kuat, diadu di global juga masih kuat. What do you think, especially you in the art market and that kind of thing?
I think knowledge is very important. Ilmu. Just like this painting shows, in the hand of that is being painted, you have the figure of Sama, and you also have the figure of Gandhi. And Gandhi would have been very much known to the audience in America at that time because he was a pacifist and he was very well known at that time. But when somebody is showing when Afandi painted Sama, everyone was like, "What is this?" Nobody knew, for most of the people looking at the painting, nobody knew Sama. And that's why I think the point about knowledge, that's where it lies. I feel like we should be strong and be able to draw on our own history and our own wellspring of knowledge, and that is the thing that would take us forward with confidence. And today's world, the art world, is a very diverse world, and there are no dominant body of knowledge and no dominant power. So if we're able to express our own specific ilmu very well, it becomes valuable. So I feel we need to work on being clear about what our own history, what our own cultural background is, then that can help us to emerge very strong. Today's world has very little barrier to access, actually.
Especially if we see in this painting, Afandi bisa bawa culture kita, tapi masih bisa ngomong pakai bahasa mereka. Tetap ada Gandhi di sana yang orang luar tahu. Jadi that's what gimana smartnya Pak Afandi showcase our culture, tapi dengan bahasa mereka. And make a curiosity, seperti yang Mas Zineng bilangin. Jadi kita penasaran siapa nih Semar? Karena ada Gandhi, kok bisa ditaruh di satunya gitu. That's how Afandi too ya. Maksudnya how smart he is to put the satu konteks di dalam lukisan yang simple, tapi bisa membawanya dengan cara yang elegan dan smart. Mungkin last question. Kalau dari sini kebetulan last question ini kelihatannya dari live kita ada yang bertanya kebetulan. Dari Afandi terinfluence, apakah Afandi terinfluence dari seniman barat? Dan menarik, biasanya artis siapa yang dikagumi oleh Pak Afandi?
What is kagumi?
Admire.
Admire.
Yeah. So two question there. Pertama, is it Afandi influenced by Western culture, Western artist, and the second from Western artists who Afandi admired the Western artists?
I think Afandi knew of all the artists who were living or who had already entered art history at that time. I don't think he particularly sort of set out to follow any one artist in their footsteps. He was definitely aware of what people were saying about how the art world during his time was already venerating Vincent van Gogh. He was very aware of that, and he was very aware that his was a form of new expressionism. And the form of new expressionism would definitely always be compared to old expressionism or dominant expressionism. So I wouldn't say that he was, he definitely never wanted to go an intellectual way, and he knew he was an artist of more than average. He has said that before. I'm more than average, and I know I can paint well. But he was never really satisfied with following any particular school of painting or competing with anyone to be like top in that category, I would say.
Wow. There is last one. Still people keep question. Probably this the last one for sure. Did artist Affandi visit Santiniketan, Kolkata, India?
Iya, dia suka melukis di kota Kolkata. Ya, dulu. He painted a lot of street scenes, but they were not very well received. Actually, when he brought those paintings back to Indonesia to show, orang kaget juga. Oh, so different from Indonesia.
Oh yeah.
The lives of these people are very different. Maybe becak-becaknya beda, makanannya beda, their pakaiannya beda. So he was fascinated. Sometimes his audience was slow to catch up with him, but he definitely loved his time in India. And from India, he went straight to Europe. The late 1940s to the late 1950s was a time of great travel for him.
Oh, thank you so much. Mr. Zine, do you have anything else want to say before we to close up this artist talk today?
No, I think it's very important that we are here and have the opportunity to see paintings. So later on, enjoy the paintings up close because it's a rare opportunity for us to do so. And we hope that you can leave us some of your thoughts after seeing the exhibition, after seeing the paintings. Share your thoughts with us here. And thank you for being part of the wonderful audience that we have today. And for being in this session with Bill and I.
Thank you so much buat semuanya juga teman-teman. Jadi silahkan menikmati jalan-jalan, lihat-lihat, bisa nulis-nulis juga di sini. Yang mau foto, mau jangan lupa juga tag Art Agenda dan juga enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oke, terima kasih semua yang sudah datang. Saya bantu rekap untuk talk show hari ini. Di sini adalah Affandi bukan seniman yang sembarangan. Dia pernah jadi representasi untuk Indonesia di luar dan ternyata mendunia. Yang kedua, dia sampai dapat beasiswa di Santiniketan, India. Yang fakta lainnya adalah ternyata beasiswanya nggak kepake karena menurut pihak kampusnya sudah terlalu jago. Jadi dipakai aja duitnya buat jalan-jalan. Dan akhirnya Affandi keliling India. Terus yang ketiga adalah yang fakta terakhir yang kita tahu adalah ternyata lukisannya sangat mahal. Itu rekap yang cukup singkat dari saya dan mungkin ada tambahan ini.
Bukan sangat mahal, under value.
Bahkan di atas sangat mahal. Oke, sebelum kita foto bareng, kita akan mengadakan sesi foto bareng. Saya mau mengingatkan untuk Jumat depan kita ada sesi resital di sini dari salah satu seniman selulois namanya Billy Aryo. Dia akan merespon lukisan-lukisan di sini tentang Affandi juga melalui karya-karya selonya dia nanti. Jadi yang buat yang tertarik bisa cek Instagram kita di Art Agenda. Kita foto bareng sekarang.